You know, a lot of Christian Republicans, or Christians in general, talk about how we need laws that are closer to our religious roots. I could get into about how Christianity as a whole is a load of crap, considering that if you read the Bible, Christians are born, not made. You are born a Christian. If you are of God, that is your nature. You cannot become one. You cannot be converted. You can only be saved by awakening your dormant Christian soul. You cannot, just be baptized and, say a few words, say a few prayers, and suddenly you're a Christian. It doesn't work that way. Even the good deeds you do and the rules you implement that would appease the Lord are not going to make you a Christian. It is, that's not something people want to hear. They don't want to believe that just because they think they're a good person means that they're entitled to enlightenment and having their soul saved and all of that. But the world is a grim, dark place, and you should be used to it by now. Now, what gets me is how, there's always these arguments between separation of church and state. What people don't realize is in Psalms chapter 118, verse 8, it says, "It is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man." It couldn't be any more clear than that. There is nothing trustworthy about mankind. Mankind is a liar, a murderer, a rapist, a criminal, a thug. Every bad word you can possibly imagine, because man is made up of sin and evil. So if you know that, why would you think that a man could pass a good law? He might be able to pass a reasonable law. He might be able to pass something that might be the lesser evil. It might be able to even contain the evil. But man himself is never good. And if man is good, he is more than a man. So, knowing that, you cannot trust upon man's ideas of good and evil. You can only tolerate it and wait. You just have to wait and see how it goes down. But knowing that, you cannot just go and assume that just because it is a good law, that it is necessarily God's law. Like when Christians want to put bans on abortion or something. Now, I could personally agree with them that there should be bans on abortion, but it is not necessarily the will of God, nor is it necessarily the good in the end. I say that, with some rancor, because I don't want to go and say that, oh, you should just pass whatever, you should just do whatever, but you cannot trust people. So, if you ask me, the closest thing to a theocracy would not be having the Pope make the decisions, or the Grand Priest, or Sharia law, or any of that. The closest thing to a religious country, a religious government, would be something that has distrust in mankind. I believe there is a close resemblance between Christianity and nihilism. And it would make sense that if you do not trust man and you put your trust in God, that you would want a government that self-regulates itself. You would want checks and balances. So, if you want a Christian theocracy, ironically, you have to avoid theocracy. You have to rely on the democratic process or a republic of some sort, which we love to talk about. You know how all these conservative pundits love to say, we're not a democracy, we're a republic. Well, what is a republic? Do you even know? If a republic is just a council that makes the rules for you, that isn't much of a free country. Just a bunch of elitists making all the rules and up on their high horse. We elect those officials. But why do we elect those officials? Why don't we just elect ourselves? Why don't we just make the rules up ourselves as a community? Because mankind cannot be trusted. Our forefathers were indeed Christians. They were also slavers, and they raped their slaves, and they were rich aristocrats, and we should not trust them either. But they knew that their fellow man was evil. So they made a system where they voted, for the officials, and then the officials were separated into several branches, and then from those branches they voted in laws, and then the president would either veto or sign the bill. So there was all these steps in between. There were all these variables to prevent tyranny because they did not trust mankind. That is all you need to know from the Bible and from religion and from anything. It isn't that you have to put your faith in a spiritual being. It isn't that you have to do good works. It's that at the end of the day, people are liars, they're cowards, and they're evil. You have to validate evil. And you have to know that if they're evil, nothing they say or do can just be given the benefit of the doubt. So you have to take every step you possibly can to limit them, to prevent them from hurting you and your family. That, I believe, is the message of Christianity and of the Bible. However, I don't believe most Christians or Christian churches or Christian establishments are of a Christian nature. I believe that they are just skewed in their belief that they have to be popular and they have to save everybody and that we need the majority's approval. And that is the flaw of democracy. Democracy is a popularity contest. And as a communist, as well, politically, I am opposed to that majority rule. Some might disagree with me on that. Some might think that the will of the people is inseparable from, collectivizing the means of production and everything. But I've gone into before, and maybe I will again, about how we need unions. We need unions to represent the republic of checks and balances, and these unions will be a vanguard and regulate one another. And these unions will represent a large portion of people, and they will protect the people within their union. But it won't be the will of the majority, because the will of the majority can be persuaded and tricked by a minority. A minority of rich and powerful and cunning people who will just swindle us and charm us with their big words and their false promises. So there is a lot to take into consideration. You cannot simply go into something and say that you're a good guy and that you got good beliefs. You have to realize that there is evil all around you at all times, and that's never going to stop. So that's just my video for right now.